Do something that's kind of cool. I don't know if you guys have seen, but in my Chrome, I just got this new add tab to new split view. I think it's actually been out since February in labs and stuff, or maybe Canary, but it just showed up on my thing. And sure enough, you can click this and then split view like you would in an IDE. And I just chose this page that I was working on. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Over here, and I connected them to. And you can drag these any way you want. And what's kind of neat is you could go to AI mode, and now you've got this connected AI chat. It's not the same as having cursor or something, because this thing's not aware of this page. But if you multiply that with the fact that you've also got AI inside your actual elements, now you've got two resources for AI, for free AI, for the time being at least, right here in Chrome. So if you look at this page, it's a little tester page I'm doing just to kind of test out some components I have. And obviously the first thing we're going to notice is that these elements are stacked up. They're sitting right on top of each other. So these are actually Flexbox, or they're components that abstract Flexbox. So it's AG Flex Row. And you might wonder, well, why is it stacking like that if it's a Flex abstraction? Well, this is a row, so the gap is actually applying to horizontal. So if I take the gap away from these custom properties, and also here it's a row. So so the first thing I'm like, how would I go about putting margins between these things? So I might come in here and naively say, okay, margin block end, and say to rem, and nothing's happening. I go in here to my computed, it's sure enough the margin's there, but it's not applying. So why isn't it applying? And then I'm going to probably think, oh, well, this is a web component. It's a custom element. So those default to having display inline. So maybe you can't use margin because you can't use margin block end on an inline element. But then I look down here and I see, oh, it's right in front of my face. Whoever this author is, me, put display contents on the host. Okay, well, why would this guy be putting display contents on this host, and how can I figure out what's going on? So what you could do at that point is you just context click the actual element, and you come down here and you start a chat. So now you've got a way to say, I notice this element has display contents. Why would a library author want to use display contents on an AG Flex row element? And how can I put gaps between the rows myself? And what's the suggested best practice for me to put gaps between the rows? So now we do that. Just drag this up so we can see it. So we're learning and we're figuring it out at the same time. So the display contents, what is it? I'm going to try to abbreviate some of this so we don't have to read through everything. But the AG Flex row component likely serves as a semantic grouping for its child AG button elements. By applying display contents, the Flex row element itself doesn't create a new Flex container or layout context. And that maintains the parent's layout. And that's one of the reasons why you might want to do that. So say this in turn had a parent that was display grid or display flow, display flexbox, or display flex. This host web component element would get in the way of that layout. So that's the reason why we do that. And then how do we still create the gutter that we need? Well, it turns out that the parent element would just need to have flex and flex direction column with the gap, or you could use display grid. That's not in here. But that's kind of interesting. You've got all this information at your fingertips. Let's say I wasn't satisfied with that answer, and we come over here and I can say, well, I'm going to ask AI mode, what is display contents and why use it in web components? So now I can come over here and learn some more. Mine's a little bigger, a little easier to see. So you do it for layout control. If you want the component's internal elements to align directly with the parents. So this is the second time we've kind of talked about this. Let me try to make it a little more visual. So up here I've got a my element, and it's a custom element itself. But think of this as the parent element. And then these rows, these AG flex rows, these guys are children of it. But because it's display contents, it's actually interesting. I think Chrome is not highlighting the elements themselves because we have display contents. Actually, if we uncheck that, now we see it showing those. But it goes from display contents to the default, which is display inline. So that won't solve our thing anyway. But what's happening when we use display contents is this my element is now interacting directly with this flex container. So if we want to see the solution, is simply just say display grid and then row. Why is this thing always coming my way? To rem, and there we go. We could also have done flex and gap. Oh, we have to say flex direction. Flex direction is column, and then we'd say gap 2 rems, and that would do it too. But what I guess that the interesting thing to me is now you've got all sorts of free AI mode, AI LLM stuff without having to reduce your cursor tokens or your Claude Code tokens or your Gemini CLI or Gemini 3 anti-gravity tokens. You've got it right here. Obviously, there's limitations, and this is only good for sort of real-time help, but it is still super useful. So I just wanted to document this and give you guys a hot tip.